Richard III's DNA discovery and the royal question of ancestry. The discovery of King Richard III's remains, more than 5 centuries after his demise, has sparked widespread fascination, not only due to the historic nature of the find, but also because of the startling revelations that followed. Unearthed in the year 2012 beneath a car park in Leicester, England, the skeletal remains were later confirmed by scientists to belong to the last English king to fall in battle. However, the most astonishing twist was yet to come. DNA analysis revealed an unexpected break in the royal bloodline, casting doubt on the legitimacy of certain branches of the British monarchy, and leaving many to wonder whether Queen Elizabeth II's claim to the throne might in fact be based on a historical anomaly. King Richard III ruled England during the 15th century, ascending the throne in the year 1483. His reign, though brief, remains one of the most debated in British history. Some historians portray him as a reformer, keen to protect the rights of the common people, while others accuse him of dark deeds, including the mysterious disappearance of his nephews, known as the Princes in the Tower. Regardless of where the truth lies, Richard's death in the year 1485 at the Battle of Bosworth marked the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and the beginning of Tudor rule under King Henry VII. When Richard's remains were identified through DNA evidence, scientists from Leicester University undertook a deeper investigation to further explore his royal lineage. Since Richard had no surviving direct descendants, researchers turned to his sister, Anne of York, and traced her lineage down through female lines to find living relatives. Mitochondrial DNA, which is passed from mother to child, matched conclusively with Richard's remains. However, when examining the Y chromosome, which is passed from father to son, the results did not align. This discrepancy suggested a break in the paternal bloodline, raising the possibility that at some point in history, a child thought to be born to a royal father may have actually been the biological offspring of another man. This revelation, while shocking, is not entirely surprising to genealogists. In fact, historical studies estimate that the rate of so-called false paternity, where the assumed father is not the biological father, may occur in about 1 to 2% of cases. Applied over many generations, this raises the likelihood of lineage disruptions even within royal houses, where dynastic continuity was often paramount. The implications of this discovery led to a wave of speculation regarding the legitimacy of current and past monarchs. Queen Elizabeth II, a descendant of the Tudor line through King Henry VII, inherited the throne through a long chain of succession that relies, in part, on this lineage being uninterrupted and legitimate. If the break in the male line had occurred between Edward III and his son John of Gaunt, ancestors of the Tudor dynasty, it could theoretically call into question the historical basis for the Tudor claim to the throne and, by extension, all subsequent monarchs, including Queen Elizabeth II. However, most scholars and royal historians were quick to point out that the discovery, though fascinating, does not pose a practical threat to the modern monarchy. Professor Kevin Schurer, one of the lead researchers on the DNA team, acknowledged the gravity of the findings, but emphasized the enormous span of time involved. The possible break in the bloodline occurred hundreds of years ago, at a time when records were far less reliable and social conventions often influenced how lineage was documented. Additionally, the concept of royal legitimacy is not based solely on biology. Over the centuries, the authority of monarchs has also been reinforced by political stability, tradition, and parliamentary recognition. Even if a historical disruption occurred, the continuity of monarchy through legal and public acceptance holds more weight in the modern era than absolute genealogical purity. Despite the intrigue it generated, the revelation surrounding Richard's DNA has not significantly affected the British royal family. Nearly a decade after the announcement, Queen Elizabeth II remained an admired and stable figure in global leadership until her passing. The monarchy continued to operate with the support of the nation, and the descendants of the Tudor line still maintain their ceremonial and constitutional roles. The rediscovery of Richard III and the subsequent genetic revelations serve as a remarkable window into history, one that illustrates how modern science can uncover truths that have long been buried, both literally and metaphorically. Yet, they also highlight the limits of such discoveries. History is shaped by more than DNA. It is molded by politics, social norms, and evolving institutions. Even in a system so traditionally anchored in heritage as monarchy, bloodline alone is not the sole measure of legitimacy. In the end, the royal family's position remains unchanged, and the revelation does more to enrich the complexity of historical understanding than to undermine the present. What the story of Richard III's DNA truly offers is a deeper look at the human layers behind royalty, reminding us that even kings and queens are subject to the same mysteries and surprises that define all families, royal or otherwise. The mysterious rumours of Prince Harry's true father. For decades, rumours have quietly circulated among royal watchers and the public regarding the true paternity of Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. These whispers suggest that his biological father may not be King Charles III, but rather Major James Hewitt, a former cavalry officer known for his romantic relationship with Princess Diana. Although this claim has been firmly denied by both Hewitt and those close to Diana, and the timeline does not align, the theory has endured. Fueled by media speculation, tabloid interest, and a fascination with royal drama, the mystery surrounding Harry's parentage remains one of the most discussed topics in modern royal history. Prince Harry was born on the 15th of September in the year 1984. At the time, his parents, Prince Charles and Princess Diana, were still married. Although their relationship was increasingly strained, there was no indication of infidelity that would point toward the possibility of an alternative father for their second son. It was not until later, after Diana's public disclosures about her emotional turmoil and the affair with James Hewitt, that the rumours began to gain momentum. The story largely stems from physical similarities between Prince Harry and Major Hewitt, most notably their shared red hair. While Prince Charles does not have red hair, the Spencer family, from which Diana descends, has a history of red-haired relatives. In this light, it is entirely plausible that Harry inherited the trait from his mother's side. Nonetheless, tabloids eagerly highlighted the resemblance between Harry and Hewitt, publishing side-by-side photos and speculative commentary that encouraged public curiosity. According to widely accepted timelines and the accounts of those directly involved, Princess Diana met James Hewitt in the year 1986, 2 years after Harry's birth. In her famous televised interview, Diana confirmed that the affair with Hewitt occurred during her marriage, but not at a time that would allow for the possibility that he fathered Prince Harry. Hewitt himself has consistently stated that the relationship began after Harry was born and has repeatedly denied being his father. Speaking in a television interview in 2017, Hewitt described the rumours as both false and harmful, saying they persist because they sell papers. Despite these denials, speculation continued. In his memoir, Spare, released in January of the year 2023, Prince Harry directly addressed the rumours. He recalled that his father, King Charles III, would occasionally joke about the situation. Harry wrote that Charles would comment on the rumours in jest, making light of the speculation by questioning whether Harry was really his child. While these comments were likely intended as humour, Harry noted that they reflected a deeper cruelty embedded in the public's obsession with his lineage. Harry also noted that these persistent rumours were not just about a casual resemblance, but were deeply tied to public fascination with the idea that a royal child could be born of scandal. He explained that the notion of a young prince not being who he was claimed to be gave people a kind of satisfaction, a way to diminish the stature of royalty, to humanize them through imagined flaws and secrets. The royal family, consistent with its long-standing tradition of not commenting on personal speculation, has never publicly addressed these rumours. When asked about the claims in Harry's memoir, Buckingham Palace declined to offer a statement. This silence has done little to quell public interest. In the absence of direct refutations, the mystery has only grown more intriguing to some segments of the public. Those who believe in this story argue that, given the royal family's capacity to manage public narratives, it would be simple for them to conceal inconvenient truths. They point to the monarchy's history of managing sensitive matters, from personal scandals to lineage issues, as evidence that the truth could be hidden if necessary. The speculation, in this context, is less about facts and more about a larger distrust in official narratives. The emotional impact of these rumours on Prince Harry cannot be underestimated. Having grown up under the intense glare of public scrutiny, Harry has often spoken about the pressure and emotional burden of his role within the royal family. He has described the media's treatment of his mother, and later himself and his wife Meghan Markle, as deeply harmful. The rumor about his paternity has been one of many tabloid-driven narratives that have followed him since childhood, casting a shadow on his personal identity and his relationship with the public. James Hewitt, too, has suffered as a result of the ongoing rumors. He has called the claims hurtful and has expressed concern for Harry, whom he describes as a poor chap caught in a story beyond his control. He has consistently emphasized that his relationship with Diana began years after Harry's birth and has expressed regret that people continue to ignore that fact. Despite all the available information that discredits the theory, the rumor has shown remarkable resilience. It speaks to a broader fascination with the idea that even the most powerful and seemingly untouchable figures might carry secrets that could rewrite public narratives and historical records. Prince Harry's decision to step away from royal duties and openly share his personal story in recent years has only deepened public interest in all aspects of his life, including this long-standing mystery. Ultimately, whether or not the rumor holds any truth, it continues to reflect the public's hunger for alternative versions of official stories. The possibility that Prince Harry might not be the biological son of King Charles is tantalizing not because of the evidence, but because it challenges a deeply established institution. The mystery of the Queen's second husband. Among the many legends that surround the long reign of Queen Victoria, one of the most intriguing is the persistent claim that she secretly married a second time. While Queen Victoria is widely remembered for her deep devotion to her first husband, Prince Albert, whispers of a clandestine romance and possible marriage to her loyal servant John Brown have intrigued historians and the public alike for over a century. Though no concrete evidence has ever emerged to confirm this theory, the circumstantial details and enduring speculation offer a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of royal life and the private world of Britain's longest reigning monarch of the 19th century. The focus of this mystery centres on John Brown, a Scottish servant who was initially employed as a gillie by Prince Albert. Following the passing of Prince Albert in December of the year 1861, Queen Victoria was plunged into a deep period of mourning that lasted for many years. During this time, John Brown rose to a position of close personal confidence. He became her trusted attendant, accompanying her on daily walks, protecting her during travels, and often being seen at her side, even in moments when royal protocol might have suggested otherwise. Brown's loyalty to the Queen was unquestionable. He was known to be protective, even authoritative toward her, addressing her not in the formal tones required by court etiquette, but with familiarity and concern. Queen Victoria referred to him affectionately as "my dear Brown," and he was frequently mentioned in her correspondence and journals, always in terms that indicated a deep and enduring bond. She even commissioned a portrait of him, and after his passing, had a lock of his hair placed in her private keepsake box, an act traditionally reserved for someone of profound personal significance. Those who support the theory that Queen Victoria may have married John Brown often highlight these gestures as clues to a more intimate relationship. Some claim that the two exchanged tokens of affection typically seen between married couples, such as rings and sentimental jewelry. There are also anecdotal accounts from members of the royal household suggesting that Brown may have had private access to the Queen's chambers and was treated with an unusual degree of familiarity and trust for someone of his station. Despite this compelling circumstantial evidence, the official historical record remains silent on any formal relationship beyond that of servant and sovereign. Queen Victoria's diaries, while full of affectionate references to Brown, never indicate a romantic or marital connection in explicit terms. Moreover, no marriage certificate, legal documentation or church record has ever surfaced to support the idea of a secret union. Still, some historians and researchers argue that such records, if they had ever existed, may have been intentionally hidden or destroyed to protect the royal family's public image. The notion of a reigning queen marrying a commoner, particularly one without noble birth or title, would have been seen as scandalous in the context of Victorian society. It would have challenged not only the expectations of the monarchy, but also the rigid class structure that defined the British Empire at the time. Suppression of such a truth, if it existed, would have been in keeping with the royal household's efforts to control the narrative around the sovereign's private life. Fueling further speculation is the account of Reverend Norman MacLeod, a clergyman who was reportedly close to both Queen Victoria and John Brown. According to unverified sources, He may have presided over a secret marriage ceremony. However, there is no firm evidence to corroborate this claim, and the details remain elusive. Adding to the mystery, when John Brown passed away in 1883, Queen Victoria was reported to be devastated, and she ensured that he was buried with high honours. At her own passing in January of the year 1901, she was said to have requested that a photograph of John Brown be placed in her coffin, alongside other treasured mementos. The story of Queen Victoria and John Brown later inspired works of fiction and film, most notably the drama Mrs. Brown, which explores their relationship through a romantic lens. Whether artistic license or close to truth, these portrayals have only deepened public fascination with what might have been a royal romance kept hidden from view. In the end, the question of whether Queen Victoria ever secretly married her devoted servant may never be definitively answered. The lack of direct proof leaves the story in the realm of historical mystery, sustained by personal letters, family anecdotes, and the enduring emotions recorded in the Queen's private writings. Regardless of the true nature of their relationship, what is certain is that John Brown played a vital and comforting role in the later years of Queen Victoria's life, offering her companionship and loyalty at a time when she was consumed by grief and solitude. The Royal and the Count. The Prince of Wales, now king upon his mother's passing in 2022, has long embraced his role as a global statesman, environmental advocate, and royal representative. However, one of the most unexpected and fascinating aspects of his lineage lies far beyond British soil. Genealogical research has confirmed that the Prince of Wales is a direct descendant, 16 generations removed, of Vlad III of Wallachia, better known as Vlad the Impaler, the man who inspired the legendary vampire figure of Count Dracula. Born in the year 1431 in Transylvania, Vlad ruled the region of Wallachia, a historical area now located in modern-day Romania. He is widely regarded as both a national hero and a historical figure of controversy. While he successfully resisted the expansion of the Ottoman Empire into Europe, his brutal methods of dealing with enemies earned him a far darker legacy. The name Vlad the Impaler was derived from his preferred method of punishment, impalement. His determination to defend his territory was ruthless, and stories of his fearsome tactics have echoed through the centuries. One of Vlad's most daring military achievements came during an event known as the Night Raid. In a bold attempt to stop the advance of Ottoman forces, Vlad led a surprise attack that came dangerously close to ending the life of Sultan Mehmet. His command of psychological warfare and tactics of fear made him a formidable opponent, though they have also painted him as a chilling figure in the historical record. Despite these violent associations, there is more to Vlad than darkness. In Romanian history, he is considered a defender of the homeland and a ruler who resisted outside domination. His actions were complex, reflective of a time when warlords often had to choose between survival and compassion. However, his infamy spread far beyond the battlefield, particularly due to his lineage and the popular fiction it would later inspire. Vlad III was the son of Vlad II, a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order founded to defend Christianity in Eastern Europe. Upon joining, Vlad II adopted the name Dracul, which in Romanian can mean dragon or devil. Therefore, his son, Vlad III, became known as Dracula, meaning son of the dragon or son of the devil. This name, later immortalized in fiction, has led to generations of fascination with the connection between royalty, power, and the macabre. The myth of Dracula was cemented in popular culture by Bram Stoker's Gothic novel Dracula, published in the year 1897. Although the fictional vampire bears little resemblance to the real-life Vlad III, the story's mysterious setting in Transylvania and its themes of immortality, power, and bloodline echoed eerily with the true history of Vlad's dynasty. For more than a century, Dracula has captivated readers and inspired countless films, television series, and books, ensuring that the legacy of Vlad the Impaler lives on in unexpected ways. In a surprising twist that captured the attention of historians and royal watchers alike, the Prince of Wales publicly acknowledged his descent from Vlad the Impaler. In a statement made during a campaign to promote Romanian heritage and conservation efforts, the prince remarked that Transylvania is in his blood. Far from being defensive about this eerie connection, he embraced it with a sense of humor and heritage. His comment that he had a stake in the country was seen by many as both clever and symbolic. His ancestral link to Vlad III also supports one of the prince's lesser-known passions, his love for Romania. Over the years, before his passing, he had visited the country many times and has worked to support its cultural preservation and environmental conservation. He even purchased a quaint country home in the village of Viskri, located in Transylvania, where he enjoys the simplicity of rural life. There, he supports efforts to sustain the region's ancient forests, promote local crafts, and encourage responsible tourism. While some theories playfully suggest that the Prince of Wales could be descended from a real-life vampire, the truth is far more grounded in historical reality. Vlad was a man shaped by the brutal times he lived in. His link to the British royal family does not imply a bloodthirsty lineage, but rather illustrates the complexity and interwoven nature of European royal ancestry. It also highlights how stories, both factual and fictional, can influence perceptions of historical figures. The romanticism of the vampire tale, combined with the very real horrors of Vlad III's reign, has blurred the lines between legend and legacy. For the Prince of Wales, acknowledging this link does not bring shame, but rather serves as a way to draw interest to Romania's rich cultural heritage and to remind people of the deeper, often misunderstood stories behind famous names. The royals who were hidden from the public. In the year 1987, the British public was stunned to learn of a long-buried truth involving two close relatives of Queen Elizabeth II. The revelation was not only heartbreaking, but also deeply unsettling, as it unearthed questions about secrecy, stigma, and the lengths some families, particularly those with royal ties, have gone to in order to preserve a public image. Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon, cousins of the late Queen, were discovered to have been wrongly listed as deceased decades earlier, while in reality they had spent most of their lives in an institution far from the public eye. Nerissa Bowes-Lyon was born on the 18th of February 1919, and her younger sister Catherine arrived on the 4th of July 1926. They were daughters of John Herbert Bowes-Lyon, brother to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and Fenella Bowes-Lyon. This lineage made them first cousins to Queen Elizabeth II. Despite their royal connection, the sisters led lives of near anonymity, largely due to their severe developmental issues. As children, both Nerissa and Catherine displayed signs of profound cognitive and communicative impairments. It became evident early on that their development would remain limited. Reports from their later caregivers indicated that the sisters likely never surpassed the age of 6. While the precise nature of their condition was never formally diagnosed, it was speculated that the cause might be hereditary, tracing back to their maternal grandfather, Charles Trefusis. Their impairments led to a difficult and lonely trajectory. Fenella, their mother, made the decision to institutionalize both girls after the passing of their father in 1930. Initially, they were sent to Arniston School, which catered to the children of aristocratic families with disabilities. However, in the year 1941, Nerissa and Catherine were relocated to the Royal Earlswood Hospital in Redhill, Surrey. At that time, Nerissa was 22 and Catherine was 15. Remarkably, Fenella's sister Harriet made a similar decision on the very same day, institutionalizing her 3 daughters, who had similar disabilities, at the same facility. This odd coincidence suggested that the handling of disabled family members within aristocratic circles followed a discreet but calculated pattern, driven largely by the social stigma surrounding cognitive disabilities during that era. Then, in a twist that would only be revealed decades later, the publication of Burke's Peerage in 1963 listed both Nerissa and Catherine as deceased, Nerissa in 1940 and Catherine in 1961. Whether this was the result of clerical error or deliberate misinformation remained unclear, but the effect was profound. It effectively erased the sisters from public memory, allowing the family to distance itself from a truth it was evidently unwilling to face openly. Everything changed in the year 1987. A reporter from the Sun newspaper, posing as a relative, managed to gain access to the facility where Catherine still resided. He found her frail and confused, living quietly in institutional care. Just 1 year earlier, in 1986, Nerissa had passed away at the age of 66. She was buried in a modest grave, marked only by a plastic label bearing her surname and an identification number. The Sun's headline read, "Queen's Cousin, Locked in Madhouse," and the photograph of Catherine accompanying the piece sent shockwaves through Britain. The country was forced to confront the disturbing possibility that members of the royal family had been hidden, institutionalized, and effectively forgotten. The public reaction was swift and intense. Allegations of a cover-up began to circulate, with many accusing the royal family of shamefully sidelining vulnerable relatives to preserve their own image. Buckingham Palace issued a short statement saying only, "We have no comment about it at all. It is a matter for the Bowes-Lyon family." Meanwhile, members of that family scrambled to offer explanations. Some, like Lady Elizabeth Anson, insisted that no deception had occurred, stating that relatives had visited the sisters frequently and that there was never any intent to hide them. Others pointed to administrative confusion, suggesting that their mother, Fenella, may have unintentionally caused the misinformation by submitting incomplete records to Burke's peerage. Yet, staff at the Royal Earlswood facility painted a different picture. According to Dot Penfold, a former ward sister, the sisters went years without any visitors. Another nurse, Onell Braithwaite, who cared for the sisters, remembered them as affectionate and childlike. Though non-verbal, the sisters could make sounds and gestures to communicate with those who knew them well. She added that with modern therapies, they might have developed improved communication skills. Their personalities also came through in anecdotes from caretakers. Catherine, in particular, was remembered as mischievous and lively. The story of Nerissa and Catherine brought wider attention to how disabled individuals were treated within upper-class families during much of the 20th century. Their institutionalization, along with that of their similarly affected cousins, was part of a broader pattern where children with disabilities were often quietly removed from public life, sometimes under the guise of care, but more often as an attempt to avoid societal embarrassment. This practice was not limited to the Bowes-Lyons. In 1916, King George V had similarly sent his youngest son, Prince John, away to the family's wood farm on the Sandringham estate due to his epilepsy and developmental delays. The tragedy of Nerissa and Catherine's lives lies not only in their isolation, but also in the opportunity that was lost. Modern perspectives on disability emphasize inclusion, dignity, and access to resources that can help individuals lead enriched lives. It is heartbreaking to think how different their experiences might have been had they been born in a more understanding and compassionate time. Catherine lived on for many years after the scandal broke. Despite renewed attention from the media, it appears she remained in the same facility and continued to live a quiet life, much as she always had. An administrator described her as an elderly, frail old lady. There is little evidence to suggest that she received visits from relatives following the renewed public interest in her story. The legacy of Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon is one of both sorrow and societal reflection. Their story serves as a stark reminder of how even the most privileged families can fail those who need them most. It also highlights how society's understanding of disability has evolved, and how far it still has to go. While the British monarchy has always maintained an air of tradition and duty, the story of the hidden sisters offers a rare glimpse into the private struggles that have unfolded behind palace walls. These were not stories of grandeur or glory, but of two vulnerable women who, for much of their lives, were denied the warmth of family, the compassion of a society that understood them, and the dignity of being seen. In telling their story today, their names are no longer hidden. Their voices, though never heard in life, are now part of a broader conversation about empathy, about awareness, and about ensuring that no one, royal or not, is left alone in the shadows. The Forgotten Prince John. People often view royal life as one of endless privilege and insulation from pain. However, history occasionally reminds us that sorrow and suffering do not discriminate, not even against those of royal blood. One such example is the tragic life of Prince John of the United Kingdom. Born into the grandeur of the British monarchy, Prince John's life was ultimately shaped by illness, solitude, and a quiet exit from the public eye. Though he was once fifth in line to the throne, his story was kept so private that, for many years, he was largely unknown to the public. Today, he is remembered as the Forgotten Prince, a young boy whose short life was marked by vulnerability and silence. Prince John was born on the 12th of July, 1905. He was the youngest of 6 children born to King George V and Queen Mary. His birth was welcomed with joy, and for the first few years of his life, he was raised in the royal household alongside his siblings, enjoying a seemingly normal childhood under the watchful eyes of a royal family that valued discipline and duty. King George V, though known to be stern and formal, did express affection toward his children in his own way. Queen Mary, on the other hand, was described by those close to her as a nurturing and attentive mother. She encouraged her children to confide in her, and she took genuine interest in their lives. From all appearances, Prince John's early years were filled with love and structure. However, by the time he reached the age of 4, Prince John began experiencing symptoms that concerned his family and physicians. He was diagnosed with epilepsy, a neurological disorder that at the time was poorly understood and widely stigmatized. His condition grew more severe with time, and so did the reactions of those around him. His unpredictable seizures caused distress not only for himself, but also for his siblings, who were said to be frightened when they witnessed them. As his condition progressed, his behavior became increasingly difficult to manage. He often showed signs of being headstrong and disobedient, traits not welcomed in the strict world of royalty. In the year 1916, at the age of 11, Prince John's seizures became more frequent and intense. Doctors believed he would not live to adulthood. That same year, he was quietly moved to Wood Farm, a small house located on the family's Sandringham estate. There, he lived under the care of his devoted nanny, Charlotte Lala Bill. His formal education was discontinued, and his tutors were dismissed. From that point on, Prince John was essentially removed from royal life and lived in seclusion, far from the attention of both the public and the press. Despite the sadness surrounding his condition, Prince John was not completely without joy. Queen Mary did her best to ensure that he had companions and a sense of routine. She arranged for children from nearby villages to visit and play with her son, offering him moments of laughter and companionship. Those who visited him during this time would later recall his gentle and playful nature, describing him as sweet, spirited, and affectionate. Still, the royal family maintained strict privacy about Prince John's condition. In a time when public image meant everything to a reigning monarchy, his illness was seen as something to be hidden. This decision, though perhaps understandable within the social and medical context of the early 20th century, resulted in a young life largely spent in the shadows. On the 18th of January in the year 1919, Prince John passed away peacefully in his sleep after suffering a major seizure. He was just 13 years old. His death marked the end of a life that had once held promise, but had been overshadowed by illness and silence. In a private letter to a friend, Queen Mary expressed both her sorrow and a sense of relief that her youngest son's suffering was finally over. She wrote about how peaceful his final moments were and how grateful she was that he had been spared further pain. For many years following his death, Prince John's story remained largely unknown to the general public. It was not until much later that his life was brought back into the light, most notably through the dramatized television film The Lost Prince, which helped reintroduce him to the public consciousness. Historians, authors, and artists have since explored his life, shedding new light on the emotional toll endured by this young boy. Prince John's story stands as a poignant reminder that even within the halls of palaces, human suffering exists. He may have lived in seclusion, and his condition may have been hidden from view, but the tenderness and love shown to him by those who cared for him tell a different story, one of resilience, of quiet dignity, and of a young soul who experienced joy despite great adversity. Though history once tried to forget him, today Prince John is remembered not for his title or his position in the royal succession, but for the very humanity that made his story so moving. His life, short though it was, remains a powerful symbol of how empathy, understanding, and remembrance can ensure that no one, regardless of their condition, is ever truly forgotten. The mysterious disappearance of the princes in the Tower. The mysterious disappearance of King Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, during the summer of 1483 remains one of the most perplexing and unsettling mysteries in British history. These two royal children vanished within the walls of the Tower of London, never to be seen again, leaving behind a legacy of speculation, political controversy, and historical intrigue that continues to fascinate scholars and the public alike. Following the passing of their father, King Edward IV, in April of 1483, the young Edward was named his successor. At just 12 years old, Edward was not yet old enough to rule independently, and so his uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was appointed as Lord Protector. In May of that same year, Edward and his younger brother Richard, who was 9 years old at the time, were placed in the Tower of London. At the time, the Tower served as both a royal residence and a secure location for the coronation preparations. Initially, there was no sign of alarm. The two princes were being housed in a manner consistent with royal tradition. However, soon after Richard assumed the role of Lord Protector, events took a sudden and dramatic turn. In late June, their uncle was proclaimed King Richard III, and young Edward V was never crowned. By the late summer of that year, both boys had disappeared from public view entirely. What followed was a swirl of uncertainty. Whispers and rumours began to circulate, with many suspecting foul play. The most widely accepted theory, albeit circumstantial, suggests that Richard III may have been responsible for ensuring the boys would no longer be perceived as threats to his newly acquired crown. This theory is largely based on timing. The boys disappeared shortly before Richard was crowned king, and no official record was ever made of their departure or well-being. However, despite the long-standing suspicions, there is no direct evidence to support the idea that Richard ordered their removal. Some historians have even argued that Richard had no need to go to such extreme lengths, pointing out that such an action would have been politically risky and morally dubious, even for that era. Furthermore, some accounts from the time suggest that others, including political rivals or loyalists to the previous regime, might have had motive to interfere in the lives of the young princes. An alternative theory suggests that the princes were secretly removed from the Tower and raised in anonymity. It has been proposed that loyalists to the House of York, or even hidden allies from the former Lancastrian line, may have smuggled the boys to safety. While intriguing, no firm evidence has ever been produced to prove this narrative, though occasional claims of supposed descendants have surfaced throughout the centuries. A particularly noteworthy moment in the history of the case occurred in the year 1674, when two small skeletons were discovered buried beneath a staircase in the White Tower during renovations. At the time, many believed these remains to be those of the missing princes. In the year 1933, the bones were examined, and while no conclusive results were reached, they were interred in Westminster Abbey as a mark of respect. Despite this, the identities of the skeletons have never been definitively verified, and requests to conduct modern DNA testing have thus far been denied. Regardless of what truly became of the two young princes, their disappearance had an undeniable ripple effect throughout English history. Richard III's brief reign ended just 2 years later at the Battle of Bosworth Field in August of 1485, where he was defeated by Henry Tudor, who would ascend the throne as King Henry VII. This marked the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and the beginning of the Tudor era, a period that would redefine the English monarchy. The disappearance of the princes also served to tarnish Richard III's legacy, an image further shaped by William Shakespeare's portrayal of him as a dark and villainous figure in his famous play. While modern historians have worked to reassess Richard's character, the stain of this mystery continues to cast a long shadow over his reign. To this day, the fate of Edward V and Richard, Duke of York, remains unknown. The Tower of London still stands, its ancient stones silently holding the secrets of that fateful summer. The absence of concrete answers has only deepened the sense of intrigue surrounding the story. Over the years, countless books, documentaries, plays, and theories have attempted to unravel the mystery, yet none have succeeded in providing definitive clarity. Perhaps what keeps this mystery so compelling is its perfect blend of royal drama, historical weight, and emotional tragedy. The thought of two young boys, heirs to a great kingdom, vanishing without a trace within the very fortress built to protect them, continues to capture imaginations. It is a tale that reminds us that even in the halls of power, innocence can be vulnerable, and that history is not always a clear and linear path, but often a puzzle with pieces lost to time. In the end, the story of the princes in the Tower endures not simply because it is unsolved, but because it reflects the deeper themes of loyalty, ambition, and the consequences of power. Though centuries have passed, the mystery of the missing princes still echoes through the annals of British history, a haunting reminder that even kings and kingdoms are not immune to secrets. Prince Philip's lifelong fascination with UFOs and the unknown. Throughout his life, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, was known for his sharp wit, steadfast dedication to public service, and strong opinions on a variety of topics. Yet one of the lesser-known aspects of his life was his genuine and long-standing fascination with unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life. This interest spanned several decades and was grounded in credible reports, government documents, and personal curiosity, rather than idle speculation. Prince Philip's journey into the world of the unexplained began in earnest in the year 1955. That year, a close relative of his, Lord Louis Mountbatten, reported an extraordinary encounter that left a lasting impression. The event took place at Broadlands Estate in Romsey, England, where one of Mountbatten's employees, a man named Fred Briggs, came forward with a remarkable story. Briggs claimed he had seen a flying saucer hovering just above the ground. Even more astonishing was the appearance of a figure, dressed in overalls and a helmet, emerging from the craft. Briggs recounted that he was thrown off his bicycle and pinned to the ground by an invisible force. Dazed and shaken, he struggled to make sense of the experience. As a practical man who had never believed in flying saucers before, the incident was deeply unsettling for him. Mountbatten, intrigued and respectful of the event, documented it carefully, which only deepened Prince Philip's curiosity. From that point forward, the Duke of Edinburgh began to pay close attention to UFO-related reports. According to those who worked closely with him, Prince Philip maintained a detailed map of sightings at Buckingham Palace, marking locations where unexplained aerial phenomena had been witnessed. It is believed that he took a special interest in Ministry of Defence reports and, on occasion, even requested access to classified information relating to such cases. His personal library reportedly contained numerous books on extraterrestrial encounters, contact phenomena, and government investigations into aerial anomalies. He viewed these subjects not with casual amusement, but with sincere interest. His collection included both scientific texts and personal accounts of unexplained events, showing a balance between open-minded curiosity and reasoned skepticism. In the summer of the year 2019, just a few years before his passing, Prince Philip was said to be reading The Holt Perspective, a detailed account of the Rendlesham Forest incident. This case remains one of Britain's most notable UFO events. Occurring in December of the year 1980, it involved several United States Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk. They reported seeing mysterious lights in the nearby forest, which led them to a triangular-shaped object that appeared to be intelligently controlled. Radiation readings taken at the site showed anomalies that suggested something out of the ordinary had indeed occurred. Meanwhile, radar operators in the area confirmed an object moving at incredible speeds, far beyond the capabilities of known aircraft, toward the location where the sighting was reported. Despite official explanations attributing the lights to the Orfordness Lighthouse, many investigators, including those with military backgrounds, believed the incident involved something far more unusual. For Prince Philip, the question of whether or not humanity is alone in the universe was not a matter of idle imagination, but one deserving sincere inquiry. He believed that the unexplained nature of these sightings warranted investigation, especially when such encounters were experienced by credible individuals like military officers, pilots, and radar operators.